I got the invitation to go on this Armed Lutheran radio show, though. You know this guy? Have you seen this? There's two things that I would like to say that make me feel safe. Number one, the fact that there is a radio show called the Armed Lutheran Podcast somewhere in the world. That makes me feel safe.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense. You know all the rest. Welcome to episode number 430. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran. It's 2025. Happy New Year. Welcome to a new year. It is the start of season number 10, year number 10 of Armed Lutheran Radio, and it's been a while. It's good to be back. I am recording this as I'm doing some work, so if I seem distracted, I will try to minimize the distraction. There's only a couple of things I'm doing some updates for clients as I record this, which typically only requires that I push a button and watch the screen and make sure things don't blow up. So I figure I can talk while I'm doing this. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us. As I said, it's episode number 430. Hard to believe it's been 430 episodes. For those of you who are new, welcome aboard. Hope you will stick around and we'll check out the back catalog, all 429 previous episodes, plus some additional content out there that puts us beyond the 430. Hang on a second. Let me push a button. Button pushed. Okay. And for those of you who are regular listeners, I want to thank you for your forbearance as it's been a while since we've put an episode together. Took an extended break, really more than I had planned. We normally take a break at the end of every year, but things were different this year. We just moved at the end of August. We're still settling into the new house. Got a lot of changes going on. Volleyball season kicked off for my daughter, which for those of you out there who listen, who have children involved in club volleyball, you know what that's like. And we had this craziness going on at work where we had this big incentive to try to get as much work finished by the end of the year as we could. And that was just tying me up a lot with additional work. Plus, I had 2 weeks of vacation planned for the end of the year, the week of Christmas and the week after. So trying to get as much of the things on my plate done before I took a 2-week break from work meant putting in a lot of extra hours. And then, of course, as is the way it always works for me, week 2 of my vacation was spent sick. Missed a couple of weeks church, spent a good week on the couch. It put me down worse than COVID ever did. For those of you who were around back when I had COVID, you'll know that I was trapped at my brother's house in his guest room because I'd gone back to North Carolina to help move my mom into an assisted living facility. And by the end of that first day of moving, I felt horrible, and it turns out I had COVID. By the second day, I felt normal and ended up getting cabin fever because I could not, I had to quarantine myself. Couldn't go out, certainly couldn't get on an airplane for another few days. So I had to sit in this in this guest room for 5 days with no symptoms. But after the first day, the symptoms were gone. Whatever this was that went through my house this time was far worse than that. It just drained everyone. My daughter brought it home from school. She got sick, and then she was sick on the last day of school, of all things. And then my wife got it, and then I got it, and that knocked me out for more than a week. And I had planned over the Christmas break to do our January or our February. Wow. To do our December online hangout, our end of the year online hangout. And I scheduled it, and then I felt horrible and sounded horrible, and I couldn't stop coughing. And so I postponed it thinking, okay, I'll be better in a few days. A few days came. I was not better. Postponed it again. Still not better. And then I just suspended it basically until further notice, because I figured, why keep guessing when I have no idea when this thing is actually going to run its course. Unfortunately, it has, but now we're back to work and back to school and back to volleyball, and oh my goodness. So I hope I hope the start to your 2025 has been better than mine. Of course, as we've seen around the world, it hasn't been. We've brought in 2025 with quite the bang. We had the terrorist attack in New Orleans. We had the crazy guy blowing up the Cybertruck in Las Vegas. Got the wildfires ravaging California. So 2025 is off to a great start. But honestly, I've spent a lot of time the last month. It has been a month, I noticed, since the last episode was released, doing a lot of reflection about this show and about what I wanted to do with it and whether I wanted to continue doing it. There's so many voices out there already. I started to think, well, what am I contributing to the conversation? What have I said at this, or what can I say at this point going forward that hasn't already been said, that we haven't already discussed? Do I have more to offer here on this show? Is it worth continuing to do? It's certainly not financially worth it, but is it worth it in terms of the good it brings to you, the listener? Is it going to be, are my opinions valid? Are worth listening to at this point? So a lot of self-doubt creeping in over the break and over the last month or so. I'm not really the armed Lutheran so much anymore, which is something I do want to talk about in a future episode. So I don't know. But I think we're gonna stick with it for a while. I want to see if we can get to 450. That would be cool. And see what happens from there. I hope you'll stick with me. I hope you will. I do know that here's. I just want to run some ideas by you, some things that I'm thinking about for 2025, some things that are going to happen in 2025, and what you can expect at least for the next few months. Now, as I said, for those of you parents of kids playing club volleyball, or I guess any kind of travel sports, things are going to get kind of crazy. Here we just played our second tournament last weekend, my daughter's team. And going forward, it's like a tournament every 2 weeks. So it's going to be kind of hectic going from here through April. And in that is included a couple of 3-day tournaments, including one in Atlanta. So going to be very busy. So expect that there may be some oddities in terms of the release schedule of the show. The plan is still to try to get the show out Sunday nights. It may be Monday or even later before some episodes are released. We may have to skip some episodes because of scheduling. We will just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. there are some things that definitely are going to continue in the future. We do have another book in the works. The third book in my 10 Commands series is in the final stages of editing, and my deepest appreciation, my deepest thanks to all those who have pre-ordered that book and are eagerly awaiting its release. A handful of those early adopters, the early purchasers, will be featured as characters in the book, and I will leave it to you once you get hold of the book to kind of figure out who those characters are. So that's in the works. It's taken a little longer than I had expected to get that finished, partly because of the move and the work schedule at the end of the year, and because, to be honest, I kind of rejiggered my thoughts on the book to begin with. I sat down sometime last year, I don't remember exactly when, and basically wrote out a rough sketch of what the book was going to be, kind of hitting the high points. Here's what I want to happen, and then trying to flesh those ideas out. And I wrote a rough draft over the course of a couple of weeks, and then I got some other ideas that sort of changed the way I thought I wanted to go with it. And then that changed again. And then I thought, no, that's not going to work. And so I've reworked a few things several times, and then we moved, and then the whole work thing at the end of the year, and now volleyball. So the plan was to have the book finished in January. I'm thinking it's going to be another month or two before it's released, but definitely going to be early this year. So that is still coming. I do still want to do a follow-up to Duty to Defend, but I think that's probably a project for another year, probably a next year kind of project. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Duty to Defend is a book that is a collection of articles written by ordained Lutheran pastors addressing certain verses in the Bible that are commonly used in the gun debate, both pro-gun and anti-gun, both pro-gun control and pro-gun rights, and trying to put those verses in context and help you understand why they do or don't apply, so that when you hear these verses used in arguments about gun rights, you know whether or not the person making the argument is making a good argument. If you would like to grab a copy, we have signed copies available at the shop, armedlutheran.us. Click on the button at the top for, I think it's at the top of the page. Go to the store and check out the books. Signed copies, like I said, are available, or you can grab a copy from Amazon. They also have, there's also EPUB versions available on the website, or Kindle versions available through Amazon. And there is an audiobook version as well, though I am not reading it, thanks to my horrific allergies and the inconsistency in my voice from one chapter to the next. I ended up using a service to translate the words into text, or the text into audio. It turned out pretty well. Not the way I had originally envisioned it, but it also saved me trying to pronounce some of the words that some of the authors used, which was troubling and difficult for me because I am Southern. I grew up in the Southeast, and so mispronouncing things is kind of what I do. In any event, that it's been on my mind to do a follow-up to that, but I don't think that's in the offing for this year. I do want to still continue to do the online hangouts, the monthly online hangouts. The format of those may change a little bit this year. We'll see. We'll still catch up with everybody and find out how everybody's doing, but we may focus on more topical discussions. I have considered even, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, or send me a message. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, but maybe even take going through Duty to Defend chapter by chapter and going through those articles with members of the gun club. If you would like to become a member of the Reformation Gun Club, that is available as well. We'd love to have you join us. Our online hangouts are for members of the Reformation Gun Club to kind of hang out together and chit chat and talk with the cast. And we try to do that once a month. So going to continue to do the online hangouts, but I do have some topics that I do want to try to hit this year. Some things I do want to talk about, one of which kind of came up over the course of the last weekend in the volleyball tournament that I attended. So we'll talk about that in next week's show. We'll see. Also want to try to do more with Pastor Bennett. We didn't do as much last year. And I know there were questions about the variety shows and some people wanting to hear from the cast. So we'll try to do more of that. I know, for example, due to some unforeseen circumstances, Sergeant Bill hasn't been able to shoot competitively as much as he had in the past. So putting together shows about competitive shooting when you're not shooting competitively, I understand is a little bit of a challenge. And that's sort of been the thing for me. Part of the reason that I don't talk very much about competitive shooting much anymore, and the reason is because I just don't shoot competitively. In fact, I don't shoot, if I'm honest. But with the demands of work and if you're a parent of a young athlete who is involved in a higher level sports like club volleyball or travel baseball or softball or basketball, or golf or some of these others, if you know exactly where your money ends up going there instead of going to shooting. And so seeing as how I've only got a few more years before she's out of the house, I'm focusing as much of my time and attention on that and driving across the country to shooting matches and spending the kind of money that it took to be, try to be competitive. I just don't have the time, the inclination or the money to, and I guess lack of time and lack of money contribute to the lack of inclination, but perhaps in future, I will take that up again and get more active as a competitive shooter. And what I meant by I don't shoot, and the reason I talked about earlier about not even being armed so much is because, and I want to get your thoughts, I guess, on this. I don't go to these matches. I don't shoot competitively because of the aforementioned involvement with work and volleyball and all of that. But also, I haven't been to the range since COVID, since right after COVID. It's probably been almost 4 years since I pulled a gun out of a holster and pointed it at a target and fired a round. It's been a while. And this is a discussion for another day as well, is I don't carry as much as I used to for a variety of reasons. The first and foremost being I work from home, and so I don't get out a whole lot. When I do, I carry, but it's rarer than it used to be. I'm sort of the boy in the bubble, which might explain why I was sick over why this tiny bug put me down for 2 weeks. But there's some things I want to talk about surrounding that, because you might find yourself in a similar situation where you don't shoot as often due to a variety of reasons. It could be you just don't have the time, you just don't have the money, you don't have the access to ammunition, you don't have access to a range. Maybe your living arrangements have changed, and you used to live somewhere where you could just walk out your back porch and shoot out on the back 40, but you don't have that situation anymore because you live in a more urban environment or an apartment complex or something like this. Or you have other demands in your life that make it difficult, or you have medical issues perhaps that have, or family and financial issues that have interfered with your ability to get out and shoot as much, and you just don't feel as proficient. At what point do you recognize the deficiency in your skills, or the decline in your skills, or the lack of polish, shall we say, in your skills that you don't feel comfortable carrying, perhaps? So those are all things that have been, going through my mind as things I wanted to discuss, and maybe we'll get into some of that in a future episode. But for now, the plan is we're going to keep on plugging. We're going to try to get to episode 450. 500 is not in the offing for this year, obviously. There's no way we're doing 70 episodes in 2025, especially given the constraints of time that I've already outlined previously. But there are some things that are going to continue to happen. I'm going to continue to put together shows. Hopefully they will be interesting. Hopefully they will be topics you will find noteworthy and discussion worthy and entertaining. I'll continue to rant on things when I can't put together more in-depth or elaborate episodes. We'll try to get as many variety shows as possible in the coming year. We're going to continue to do the online hangouts, want to do more with Pastor Bennett, more of our Clinging to God and Guns episodes. Got a book that is in the final works, as I said. Hopefully we'll be wrapping up and we'll be on the shelves in another month or two. And of course, the music continues as a sort of a creative outlet that is fun. For those of you who don't know, I started recording music a couple of years ago, basically to supplement the audio, the soundtrack for the show, and then started doing full songs and then writing my own lyrics, and have released 3 albums on Spotify, which are now under the band name Reformer, which was decided on based on a vote by fans of the show. Reformer as in Martin Luther. Thought it made perfect sense. Our last album, I say our, but it's basically me, myself, and I. My last album was released on Reformation Day, which is, for those of you who are not Lutheran, is October 31st of last year, and that was called To Die Is to Gain. You can find that music and stream it on Spotify or Amazon or iTunes, or is it called iTunes now? Apple Music. And some other streaming services, and I need to update the store so that you can. I had to take down all of the music because, for those of you who don't know, last year there was a little bit of a dispute with another artist who had already chosen the name that I was previously using to record my music. I started recording it under that name, really just not intending to release any music on Spotify or anything. And then as that took on a life of its own, I put music out there under that name and found out from another artist that, hey, we're already using that name. So had a little bit of a contest for fans of Armed Lutheran Radio to name the band, rename the band, and it is now Reformer. And you can find that on all the streaming services. But I've had to take all that music off of the Armed Lutheran store because I had to rebrand everything, new logo, new artwork, new everything. So that is in the works as well. Should have the music back up on the store soon. And new music in the works as well. Check out the Reformer YouTube channel. Check out the YouTube channel for Armed Lutheran Radio as well. Lots and lots of cool stuff there. And we'll continue to be releasing content in both places in the foreseeable future. But for now, I think that's it. That's where we are. I wanted to get on here and give you an update as to what is going on with the show. I know it has been a while since I have released an episode, and I appreciate your forbearance and appreciate your continued support for Armed Lutheran Radio over the years, and hope you will join us as we continue this trek as we kick off Season 10 of Armed Lutheran Radio. And so there you go. That's what's happening with me. I hope you're having a good new year. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. If you are recovering from the tragic fires in California, or still recovering from the flooding in Western North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we hope things improve for you quickly. And pray for God's comfort and strength as you face your struggles. And we hope you will continue to listen to Armed Lutheran Radio in the future, and come back and join us next week. Don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll talk about something. I've got a whole bunch of ideas. We'll just have to see. We'll have to see what comes out of my noggin. And whatever it does, I hope you enjoy it. So have a great week. Keep shooting. Keep praying. And we'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback, or a review on iTunes, and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.